Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that the part of you that wants to find your strength, your identity, your pride, simply isn't responding anymore. You try to ignore it at first, hoping it's just a bad day, but then it happens again and again until the silence in the bedroom feels louder than any argument you've ever had. You feel the distance growing, the confidence slipping, and a question begins to echo in your mind. Is this the end of my manhood? Here's the truth. Almost no one will dare to tell you. The real reason your erections have weakened is not low testosterone, not aging, and not lack of desire. It's something far more shocking. The harder you try to squeeze, force, and fight for an erection, the softer and weaker it becomes because you've been taught the exact opposite of what your body needs to restore its strength. And yet in just 24 hours you can feel a change. A single 1-minute stretch done correctly can unlock the blood flow that has been trapped for years and bring back the firmness, the heaviness, the power you thought was gone forever. My name is Dr. Mojit K., urologist and men's health specialist for over 30 years. And today I am going to prove it to you. Before we go any further, I need to know who's truly ready to take their life back. If you're committed to restoring your strength and rebuilding your confidence, type the number 1 in the comments right now. If you feel skeptical, type 0. Your honesty matters. And stay with me because in the next few minutes, you're going to discover the hidden muscle that determines whether you stand strong or struggle in silence. Let's begin. 1. The real reason erections fade after 60. No man ever expects the moment when his body stops responding the way it once did. It doesn't happen all at once. It begins quietly, almost unnoticeably. One evening, you realize you're taking longer to get hard. Another time, you lose firmness halfway through and pretend it was stress or exhaustion. You tell yourself it's temporary. You blame a bad day at work, too many drinks, not enough sleep. You reassure yourself that next time will be different. But then next time comes and nothing improves. And suddenly, without anyone saying a word, the room feels heavier. The silence feels sharper, and the look in your partner's eyes begins to change. Not disappointment, not anger, something far more painful, uncertainty. It's a unique kind of hurt that only a man can understand. A pain that isn't physical, but sits deep in the chest. You begin questioning everything. Your masculinity, your worth, your identity. You start avoiding intimacy because you're afraid of failing again. You turn off the lights. You move quickly. You pretend you're tired. And slowly, without even realizing it, you start disappearing from the relationship you once felt proud to lead. The world around you keeps moving. Your family, your responsibilities, the demands of daily life. But inside, something is sinking. The man who once felt unstoppable now feels powerless in the very place he once felt most alive. Many men suffer through this alone. They never say a word. Not to their partner, not to their doctor, not even to themselves. Because admitting it feels like surrender, like putting a label on something you don't want to believe is real. And society has trained men to endure silently, to push through, to fix problems without asking for help. But silence is the slowest form of destruction. It eats away at confidence, connection, joy, and hope. Here is the part no one tells you. The reason your erections have weakened isn't because you're getting older. It isn't because you're broken or doomed or past your prime. It's not lack of desire. It's not lack of testosterone. It's not that your body has betrayed you. The real reason is something far more surprising and far more solvable. Something that has nothing to do with age and everything to do with a hidden part of your anatomy that most men never learn about. A single muscle deep within your pelvis that controls blood flow, controls firmness, controls pressure, and controls whether your erection stands strong or collapses. And the shocking truth is this: it's not weak, it's tight, locked, restricted, suffocating under years of tension, stress, and compression. Your body isn't failing you. It's begging you to release what's been holding you back. In just a moment, I'm going to reveal why everything you've been told about fixing erections is backwards, and why the harder you try, the worse things become. What you're about to hear may completely change the way you understand your own body. Are you ready for the truth behind the struggle every man faces, but almost no one understands? Let's uncover it. 2. Meet the hidden muscle bulbocavernosus (BC). What if I told you that the strength of your erection has almost nothing to do with your penis itself? That the real power behind every firm, lasting, confident erection comes from a muscle you've probably never heard of. One buried deep beneath the surface, silently controlling the very thing you've been struggling to fix. Most men believe erections are all about the penis. More stimulation, more squeezing, more effort. But here is the shocking truth. The key to a hard, dependable, youthful erection lies in a hidden muscle inside your pelvis, not in the penis at all. And the terrifying part is that this muscle is slowly tightening and shutting down with every passing year, robbing men of the very thing that defines their strength without them ever knowing why. It's called the bulbocavernosus muscle, or BC muscle. It sits at the base of your penis, like a valve controlling the flow of blood in and out. When it functions correctly, it relaxes to allow blood to rush in and then contracts rhythmically to trap that blood inside, creating firmness, pressure, and staying power. It is the engine behind your erection, the anchor of your sexual performance, the silent foundation of your confidence. But as men age, especially after 60, that muscle becomes tight, stiff, shortened, and starved of flexibility. Years of stress, inflammation, sitting for long hours, and straining without stretching cause it to clamp shut like a locked door. So the blood that should create strength cannot enter, and the blood that manages to get in cannot stay. Imagine trying to inflate a tire while someone is stepping on the hose. No matter how much air you push, nothing happens. That is exactly what happens inside your body. And the cruel irony is this: the more you try to force an erection, the tighter that door becomes. The body is not refusing to help you. It is fighting against a restriction you never even knew existed. Think about how many times you blamed yourself, how many quiet moments you wondered what was wrong with you, how many nights you lay awake replaying failure in your mind. You thought it was aging or hormones or something broken in you that could never be repaired. But the truth is far more hopeful than that. You were never weak. You were never losing your masculinity. You were never out of time. You were simply trapped by a muscle that forgot how to let go. And here is the most important part. Once this hidden muscle is released, once it is stretched and opened, blood flows in like a river breaking through a dam. Warmth returns, sensation returns, strength returns. Erections grow heavier, fuller, stronger, not through force, but through freedom. It is not power you need to build. It is space you need to restore. Now that you understand the muscle controlling everything, the next question becomes unavoidable. If this muscle is the key, then why have the most common methods men use to fix erections actually been making the problem worse? The answer is more shocking than you might imagine. Let's talk about it. 3. Why Kegel don't work for most men. Most men believe that the way to reverse weak erections is to squeeze harder. They've been told to clench, tighten, and push with force, as if battling their own bodies into submission. But here is a truth that almost no urologist ever says out loud. The more you squeeze, the worse your erections become. Every time you clench with desperate hope, thinking you're strengthening yourself, you are actually tightening the noose around your blood supply and shutting the door that needs to open. The very thing you've been told will save you is often the very thing destroying your progress. And I want to ask you something personal, something most men never admit out loud. How many times have you tried those exercises in silence? Maybe while sitting at a red light or lying in bed late at night, counting every squeeze as if your masculinity depended on it. How many times did you wait patiently for something to change, waiting to feel a pulse of strength or a surge of power, only to be met with frustration and disappointment? Maybe you felt hopeful the first week, maybe determined the second, but by the third week, nothing was different. You felt the same weakness, the same fading pressure, the same sinking feeling in your chest. And then comes the worst part, the self-doubt. The moment you start asking, is it me? Am I broken? Is this the end? You begin withdrawing from intimacy, avoiding moments that once felt natural, offering excuses, too tired, too stressed, not in the mood. You're not avoiding your partner. You're trying to protect yourself from the feeling of failing again, and inside something heavy begins to settle. A slow, quiet sadness that gnaws at a man's spirit. Because every failed attempt doesn't just affect your body. It affects your identity, your confidence, your sense of being needed, wanted, capable. No pill advertisement, no doctor's pamphlet ever talks about that kind of pain. And here is the paradox that makes this story even more heartbreaking. Traditional Kegel exercises train the muscle to contract, but the muscle responsible for your erection is already too tight. It isn't weak, it's suffocating. It's locked shut like a clenched fist that has forgotten how to open. And when you squeeze a clenched fist even harder, you don't build strength. You create pain, strain, and loss of circulation. That is why so many men say the same words inside my office. I tried everything and nothing worked. The body isn't failing. It's screaming for release. Your problem has never been lack of strength. It has always been lack of space. Blood cannot fill what is already compressed. Pressure cannot build where no room exists. And that is why men who have been fighting their bodies for years suddenly experience dramatic change when they learn not to clench harder, but to let go. So the question becomes, if squeezing is wrong, if force is the enemy, what is the solution? What can open that locked muscle and bring back the heavy, lasting firmness you remember from your youth? The answer lies in something far simpler, far faster, and far more powerful than most men can imagine. Let me show you 4. The 1-minute stretch that changes everything. What if everything you've been searching for, every answer, every ounce of strength you've prayed would return, could begin with just 1 minute? Not a month of waiting, not endless exercises, not expensive pills or painful injections. 1 single minute that has the power to reopen the doorway that has been shut for years. A minute that can change the way blood flows through your body, the way you feel in your own skin, the way you stand in front of the person you love. It sounds impossible, almost foolish. But the truth is that your body is far more responsive than you have ever been told. It doesn't need force. It doesn't need punishment. It needs release. For most of your life, your body has been tightening itself in response to stress, fear, pressure, disappointment, and silence. Every time you kept your pain to yourself, your muscles absorbed it. Every time you felt ashamed, they hardened. Every time you felt powerless, they closed a little tighter, and the muscle at the root of your erection, the bullo, has been carrying more tension than you could ever feel on the surface. It has been holding locked doors shut, restricting blood flow like a fist closed around the neck of a hose. No wonder erections have become weaker. No wonder they fade halfway through. No wonder you feel disconnected from a part of yourself that once felt unstoppable. But something remarkable happens the moment you teach that muscle to open. When you stretch instead of squeeze, release instead of fight, breathe instead of force, the body responds instantly. The blood that has been trapped finds space again. Warmth begins to return. Sensation wakes up like an engine turning over after years of silence. You feel pressure building where there has only been emptiness, and instead of disappointment, there is hope. Real, physical, undeniable hope. This 1-minute stretch does not require equipment, privacy, or strength. It requires only willingness. You sit upright, breathe deeply, and gently learn to lower the pelvic floor the way a singer learns to release breath. With each slow exhale, the hidden muscle opens. The pelvic floor drops. The pressure changes. Blood rushes in like a river breaking a dam. You feel it immediately. A pulse, a heaviness, a return, and what once felt dead begins to feel alive again. Not someday, not eventually now. Now, this isn't exercise for the body alone. It is medicine for the spirit. Because when a man feels his strength return, when he feels blood move with purpose again, something inside shifts. His posture changes, his confidence lifts, his eyes brighten. He remembers who he is. He remembers what it feels like to be capable, present, powerful, and connected. And yet, as simple as it is, Almost no one teaches this. Instead, men are told to squeeze harder, take more pills, hide the shame, accept the decline. But decline is not destiny. You were built to recover. You were built to heal. You were built for more than survival. So, if this one stretch can create space for blood to return, then what happens when you combine it with movement that trains your body to hold pressure and sustain power the way it once did effortlessly? What happens when you create not just a spark, but a lasting flame? That's the next piece of the puzzle, and it changes everything. Let's talk about it. 5. Why this works better than pills. Most men reach a breaking point before they ever discover the truth. They walk into a doctor's office or onto a pharmacy website with quiet desperation, hoping that a pill will save them. A small blue tablet, a hopeful promise in a bottle, something quick, something easy, something that might bring back the strength they use to trust without thinking. And in the beginning, maybe it works. For a moment, there is relief. For a night, there is hope. But then, little by little, the magic fades. The dose increases. The timing becomes unpredictable. The pressure grows heavier, and the fear returns. What if this is the last time it works? What if one day it doesn't work at all? Here is the part no commercial will ever admit. Pills do not create erections. They cannot make blood flow if the pathway is blocked. They only attempt to widen the arteries chemically, but they cannot open the muscle that controls the gateway. If the bilinosis muscle is tight and locked, blood has nowhere to go and nowhere to stay. It's like turning a faucet on full blast while someone stands on the hose. It doesn't matter how much pressure you add. The water still can't reach its destination. And men blame themselves thinking their body has failed when the truth is far simpler and far more hopeful. The blood is ready. It just needs space. That is why so many men say the same heartbreaking words to me in the exam room. It worked for a while, then it stopped. Every time that sentence is spoken, I see the pain behind it. Not frustration, but fear. Fear of losing intimacy, fear of losing partnership, fear of losing identity. And behind that fear sits a quiet grief. The grief of believing that the best years are behind you and nothing will ever feel the same again. But your body is not failing. It has been waiting. The difference between pills and the 1-minute stretch is the difference between forcing and allowing. Pills try to push blood into a system that is closed. Stretching opens the gateway and lets blood enter naturally, powerfully, fully. Pills create temporary pressure. Opening the hidden muscle creates permanent capacity. Pills depend on luck and timing. Stretching restores control. Pills treat symptoms. Stretching treats the cause. And the most powerful part is this. When blood flow is restored naturally, erections feel different. They feel heavier, fuller, warmer, more alive. There is no artificial rush, no fear of the clock, no panic about performance. You are present. You feel connected. You feel grounded. You feel like yourself again. And for a man who has spent years feeling like a faded version of who he used to be, that is not just physical transformation, it's emotional rebirth. So the question becomes clear. If your body already has everything it needs to rebuild strength, and if the path has simply been blocked rather than broken, then what happens when we combine opening the hidden muscle with movement designed to train the body to hold that pressure and sustain that power? The answer is more powerful than any medication, any supplement, or any exercise routine you have ever tried. Let me show you exactly how to unlock it. 6. Real patient story. Robert, 67. There is something profoundly powerful about hearing another man speak the truth you've been too afraid to say out loud. Not theory, not science, not statistics, real experience. And I want to tell you about a man named Robert, a 67-year-old Navy veteran who walked into my office carrying a kind of pain that no prescription could ever touch. He sat down across from me, shoulders tense, jaw tight, eyes heavy with exhaustion, and after a long silence, he whispered words that I have heard from far too many men. "I feel like I'm disappearing." He said it quietly, almost ashamed, as if admitting defeat. But the truth inside that sentence was enormous. Robert told me he hadn't had a full morning erection in more than 3 years. Every time he tried to be intimate with his wife, He felt panic rising in his chest before he even touched her. He said he could see the worry in her eyes, the confusion, the sadness, and even though she never blamed him, he blamed himself. He told me, "I feel like I'm failing her, like I'm not the man she married." He tried everything: testosterone injections, supplements, pills ordered online, hours of Kegel exercises he found in books and forums. He squeezed harder and harder because he thought effort meant strength. He counted every rep with hope. And nothing changed. Every failed attempt deepened the silence between them until he started avoiding intimacy altogether, pretending to fall asleep early, staying in the living room longer, hoping she wouldn't reach for him. He said the worst pain was not losing erections, it was losing closeness. When I examined him, the truth was clear immediately. His body wasn't weak, it was suffocating. His bulbocavernosus muscle was locked so tightly that blood could barely enter. And even when it did, it couldn't stay. He didn't need more pressure. He needed release. He didn't need strength. He needed space. I told him to stop every Kegel immediately. I asked him to do just one thing, the 1-minute stretch you're learning here today. He looked at me like I was out of my mind. After everything he tried, how could something so simple make any difference? But Robert was desperate, and desperation is sometimes the doorway to transformation. He committed to 1 minute a day. At first, he said he felt nothing, but after the 4th day, he noticed warmth, a heaviness he hadn't felt in years. After the 2nd week, he woke up one morning and felt a firmness he thought was gone forever. I will never forget the moment he walked back into my office 4 weeks later, smiling so wide he could barely speak. He looked at me and said, "Doctor, it's back." And then he paused, eyes filling with tears, and added, "I feel alive again." His wife later thanked me with tears running down her face and her voice trembling. She said the words that reminded me why I do this work. I got my husband back. So if one man can rebuild himself after years of frustration and silence, what does that mean for you? If his body remembered its strength, what might yours be waiting for? Right now, because the next step is where everything begins to change. Let's take it together. 7. The 21-day challenge. What if I told you that in just 21 days, you could begin to reverse years of frustration, restore the strength you once trusted, and awaken a part of yourself you believed had disappeared forever? Not someday, not in theory, in 3 short weeks. That may sound bold, even unrealistic, especially if you've spent years searching for answers without success. But your body has not forgotten how to respond. It has simply been waiting for the right signal. And when you give the body the correct message, when you finally stop fighting against it and start working with it, the transformation can feel almost immediate. Most men assume that recovery must take months or that age is a barrier. They look at the calendar and tell themselves they're too late. But the truth is astonishingly hopeful. The male body remains ready to rebuild at any age. Even at 60, 70, or beyond, your tissues can regenerate, your nerves can reawaken, your muscles can relearn flexibility and coordination, and your blood vessels can regain the power to expand. You are not finished. You are not beyond repair. You are still wired for strength. This is why I challenge every man who watches this to commit to 21 days. Not as a test of willpower, but as a gift to yourself. It starts with 1 minute of release each day, 1 minute to unlock the muscle that has been locked for years. 1 minute to create space where blood can finally return. And once the blood begins to move differently, everything else begins to change. Sensation sharpens, firmness grows, confidence rises, and intimacy no longer feels like a risk. It feels like a return. Alongside the stretch, we add 1 simple bridge exercise 3 days a week. Nothing complicated, nothing painful, just movement that trains your pelvic floor to support and sustain the pressure your erections were always meant to have. These short moments become a ritual, One men say helps them reconnect, not just with their bodies, but with their sense of purpose and vitality. The act of showing up each day becomes a reminder, I am still here, I am still strong, I am still a man. And then comes the quiet shift, the part you can't measure with a stopwatch or a mirror. You look at your reflection differently, you stand a little taller, your voice sounds firmer. You don't just hope for connection, you look forward to it because you're no longer stepping into the bedroom with fear. You're stepping back into your life with belief. At the end of 21 days, something powerful happens. For many men, morning erections return like a signal of victory, silent but undeniable. For others, the first moment of real firmness during intimacy feels like a surge of youth coming back through the years. And in the eyes of the woman beside you, you see something you may have feared was gone. Trust, excitement, desire. So now the question is not whether your body is capable. That has already been proven. The question is whether you're ready to take the next step, because there's one more obstacle standing between you and the results you deserve. And it's something you face every single day without even noticing it. Let me show you what it is. 8. The real enemy, the chair. What if I told you that the greatest threat to your erections is not age, not hormones, not genetics, not even stress, but the chair you are sitting on right now? It sounds absurd at first, almost laughable. How could something so ordinary, so harmless, so common, be responsible for years of frustration and fading strength? Yet day after day, hour after hour, that chair is silently shutting down the very system your body depends on to create and sustain an erection. It is compressing the blood supply, weakening nerve signals, and suffocating the muscle you now know is the key to restoring your power. And most men never realize it until the damage is already done. Think about how much of your life is spent sitting, driving, working, eating, watching television, reading, waiting. The average man over 60 spends more than 8 hours a day seated.